Welcome, welcome. This is the Enlightenment Show, and I'm your host, Lauri Schoenfeld. This is where Chicken Soup for the Soul meets the artist way with Nancy Drew. Our guest today is Louisa Treger, author of Madwoman. We're going to be chatting with her today all about her new release and how Nellie Bly's story helped support her own healing within her life. Welcome, Louisa.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
You're so welcome. I am really stoked to dive into your book, as it has been one of my favorites that I've read this year, with so many beautiful elements tied in women and asking those social human condition questions of what can we create? What can we do? And the answer is always more and always the same as everyone else. So thank you.
Thank you, Lauri. That really means a lot. And you've sort of got hold of, all the things I was trying to say and convey.
You definitely hit a chord with me multiple times on your book. So thank you. Thank you.
Thrilled to hear it. Thank you so much.
What are you passionate about within your life right now?
Well, writing, and the people I love, the people I'm close to, but also women's issues. I think more and more, the ways things have changed for women and the ways they haven't changed at all. I mean, obviously in countries like Iran, but still in the Western world.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you share with our listeners and viewers what Madwoman is all about?
Of course. So Madwoman is about America's first female investigative journalist. Her name was Nellie Bly. And she grew up without privilege or education, but, even though she overcame that to become a journalist. But in her day, women journalists were only allowed to report on things like fashion and society gossip. And she was determined to report hard news and to be taken seriously as a journalist. And to persuade the male editors to take her seriously, she had to come up with something so daring and so extreme. And she faked madness and got herself committed to the notorious lunatic asylum on Blackwell's Island, which was off the coast of New York City. And when she came out, she exposed the terrible conditions. And my book focuses on her early life because I wanted to know what could make her that extraordinary person who could do something like that, especially at the end of the 19th century when women were supposed to be reticent and ladylike. And then it covers her her time in the asylum. And I found to my fascination and horror that lots of the issues she faced in her life are identical to those women are facing today.
Mm-hmm. When you were doing your research, Louisa, what were some of your favorite things that you admired most about Nellie and her story?
Well, I think what I admired was her courage, because she just launched herself into this asylum experience, not knowing when she'd get out or even if she would get out. And she did that again and again in her life. I don't know how many of you know that she went round the world in less than 80 days trying to beat the world record of the fictional Phileas Fogg. And again, she went off with one bag that held a couple of frocks and probably a hairbrush, not much else, and that must have been like launching herself into space at the end of the 19th century. So again and again, those are only two examples, but throughout her life, she showed this extraordinary bravery. And she also had so much empathy and compassion. I think she cared deeply about the marginalized. And I think because of her own difficult background, she understood what it was like to have given up on belonging and joy. And she really strove to make conditions better for them, but also to give them a face and a voice.
Mm-hmm. When you first started with Madwoman, what sparked your curiosity first in diving deeper into these questions with Nellie?
Yes, well, Nellie Bly was mentioned to me by a friend, actually by a British friend who's not a journalist and she's not a writer. And she said to me, "Have you heard of Nellie Bly? She's the sort of woman you write about." And I hadn't, but I went away to research her and I was hooked at once. And really, what really got my imagination and gripped me was wondering what sort of person could commit herself voluntarily, go when no sane woman had ever gone before, to try and come back with a story like no other. What kind of an extraordinary person could do that when, as I said, women were expected to conform?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nellie is very determined and strong willed, a lot of courage. Can you share with us a time when you were determined to get something that was important to you?
I mean, my journey to publication, which took 20 years, but I was so determined that I just, never let go of it.
Mm-hmm. How do you think, Louisa, that writing and curiosity go hand in hand?
Well, I think if you're a writer, it's vital to be curious about the world and always to strive to see it freshly.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to see it like a painter and like a psychologist at the same time. You have to be very alert to the external world and how things look, how they appear, how they smell, how they sound, but also you're constantly wondering what makes people tick.
Mm-hmm. I love the description, Louisa, of a painter and a psychologist, because that is so on point. Bring in the color with the
Yes.
investigation of asking those
Yes.
questions. Mm-hmm. How do you think that investigating in your own life, you've found your own story?
That's a very good question. I think I found my story quite late in life because I trained as a classical musician. I think becoming a mom was huge and kind of made me who I am. But I think I also found myself through writing. I kind of, found my sort of unchanging, authentic self. But I feel like I'm still learning all the time. I'm still learning about me. I'm still learning about the world. And I'm still trying to be a better writer.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say I'm there, fixed.
Never, always learning, constantly growing. Do you feel like you've had the opportunity when you're writing to find your voice and really ask yourself those questions as a woman and as a mother and a creative?
Yes, I definitely do. And my speciality is trailblazing women. I wrote 2 novels before Madwoman, and they're both about women who struggle to conform and struggle to find their place in the world. And I think maybe that's true of me. And writing about them and how they engaged with the world kind of helped me find myself. But
Mm-hmm.
I one day I'd like to write straight fiction, and I think that would help me do that even more, through my voice.
Mm-hmm. What's something that you would like to share most with women and have women see about themselves more?
Well, I've done a couple of things that have taken a lot of courage, both personally and professionally. And I would just say to women, you know, don't be afraid, and you are you. And and trust your instincts as well. I think that as women, or I'm talking about my generation, I think it's, you know, less the case of my children's generation, but we were brought up to be such people pleasers.
Mm.
And not to have a sort of, you know, unchanging confident sense of self. And I would say your instincts are always right. Actually, your gut instincts are always right, and trust yourself. I wish I'd known that younger.
Mm-hmm. That whole Jiminy Cricket type thing, like your inner voice is always right on. We just forget to listen.
Exactly.
When you were going through your journey with writing and Madwoman, what is something that you've learned about yourself through the process?
Well, I think I've learned to trust myself as a writer. I mean, I'm not a planner at all. So it's always this leap of faith when I start a book. And then I inevitably get stuck. But now I'm able to say to myself, look, you've done this a couple of times before, so it's going to work out. I've learned that when I'm blocked, it's very often my mind working out the next bit. I mean, I think that's something I'd like to share. You know, don't despair if you get stuck. And I do think it's actually your unconscious working out the next bit. So, yeah, this is all about trusting myself. And I think probably I still trust myself as a writer more than I trust myself as a woman. But it's the same thing, you know, follow your gut.
Mm-hmm. If you had to write a headline about last week, what would it say, Louisa?
So we're talking about the Queen.
Anything that you saw last week, what headline would you want to create?
Well, for me, it was the Queen passing away because I'm English. And it actually felt quite strange not being at home for that. I live in London, and, you know, it's a bit odd not being at the capital at this moment. So, you know, I would say here lies an extraordinary woman who could not have done more.
Yes.
I think her, you know, her dignity and her devotion to public service. I think whatever you feel about the monarchy, those qualities can't be denied.
Absolutely. We're going to turn it to the inner child question segment. Here we go. First question. As a kid, what was something that you believed with your whole heart that you still believe today?
Oh, I believed in magic. And I still do. I mean, my dad was a great conjurer, not by profession, but, you know, as a dad. So there are always sort of chocolate coins coming, you know, out of his ears, and he always made things magical as well. We read together a lot. You know, there was a sort of little rock garden, you know, in our yard, which we called a fairy's garden. So I think that sense of wonder, and I still believe in. I mean, obviously not fairies, but some sort of synchronicity in the universe.
Mm-hmm. Is there a certain animal or symbol that you really connect to?
Well, I've only had one dog in my life, and you know, he's no longer with me, but I think dogs are magic, so I'd have to choose a dog.
Mm-hmm. They have a great way with just unconditionally loving you and just knowing.
Yes, it is totally that.
What book did you enjoy hearing when you were a kid from a family member?
Well, the Magic Porridge Pot, you know, based on the Grimm's fairy tale, I was completely obsessed with that book. Just the way the porridge kept appearing and kept appearing. And my dad and I used to make our own version of, you know, all the strange places it used to get into. And then I went away and, you know, started making up my own strange stories.
It's like a buffet table. The porridge just keeps coming and coming. What would you say is the oddest food combo that you've liked and tried, or you've just tried?
Well, I would say banana on pizza, which is surprisingly good. And I choose it over pineapple.
I've never ever had banana on pizza, but I'm very intrigued with like the texture and the consistency.
Yes, no, for me it worked. And you know the sweetness with the cheese and tomato, it worked for me. Well, not as tart as pineapple.
Oh, are you anti no pineapple?
I don't mind it, but I would pick banana over pineapple.
Do you have a name for that type of a pizza? Is there a name for it?
You know, I don't know. That's a very good question, and I can't answer it. I'll be good afterwards.
I'm going to try a slice of pizza with bananas, and anyone who would also like to join me in this and come up with a name for it, let Louisa and I know what your thoughts are.
And I'd love to know what you think, Lauri, and anybody else who wants to try it.
I'm mildly nervous just because I have like a consistency with bananas. But I'm really intrigued, though, how the blend of the sauce and the cheese and, like you said, the bananas go together. So I'll let you know.
Because in a way, the banana and the cheese and the tomato, they're not a dissimilar consistency. Mm-hmm. And then you've got the crispness of the base. So, you know, for me, it worked. I didn't think it would, but it did.
That was a pleasant appetizer. Before we end today, Louisa, what advice can you give to our listeners and viewers on living a creatively abundant life?
Well, as I said before, never stop being curious, never ever. You know, always try and look at the world freshly. And be in nature. I definitely think that. Also be idle sometimes. You know, it's good to sit without your screen on, without even a book, and just to let your thoughts unspool, really. And actually that happens to me a lot when I'm walking. But even just to sit on the couch and, you know, just let your thoughts go, I think that's very good. Keep a notebook to always catch your ideas. For me, you know, writing every day helps, but I know that doesn't work for all people. And read, you know, feed your imagination all the time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so very much for being here with us today, Louisa.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a total pleasure.
You are so welcome. Congratulations on Madwoman, and I'll put the link down below so that we can find where Madwoman is. Can you also share with our listeners and viewers how they can connect with you if they have any questions?
I'm on Instagram and Twitter as @Louisa Treger. And I have a website, which is louisatreger.com. And writing, you know, it's quite solitary. So I really love connecting with readers. So please do come and say hi.
Thank you so much for everyone who has joined us today. We're so grateful to have you here. Remember, as you go about the rest of your week, to find the things that are working for you. You are the creator of your own story. What are you going to add next? Have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you so much, Louisa.
Thank you.